Welcome to Corks in Conversation with Sheila Lowe.
I've been looking forward to talking with Sheila about her book. I'm going to hold it up here for those of you who are watching on YouTube, called Dead Letters. I'm going to move my fingers so you can see the full cover. But I also am really excited to talk to her about her work as a forensic handwriting examiner.
I know. It should be a very interesting and fun conversation.
Yeah. So before we get started and we hear from Sheila, let me tell you all about her. So Sheila writes stories of psychological suspense that put ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. Like her fictional character Claudia Rose in the award-winning Claudia Rose suspense series, Sheila is a real-life forensic handwriting expert who was frequently engaged by attorneys and government agencies to verify handwriting authenticity. She's a very busy lady. She also writes Beyond the Veil paranormal suspense series and nonfiction books about handwriting and personality. She also, we should be asking her about what she gets all this done. She is also has a software. She has handwriting analyzer software, and it's an independent study course, and it's used all over the world. So, and all of her books have been ranked #1 in their categories on Amazon.com. So
that's amazing. I know.
So Sheila, welcome to the podcast. It's great to talk to you today.
Thank you. You make me sound really busy.
You are busy.
Yeah, definitely. But, so we're going to ask you all the questions, but first we're going to talk about the wine today. And Sheila, you mentioned you sometimes enjoy a White Zinfandel, which truthfully reminds me of high school a little bit.
I know it's not a serious drink.
Yeah, I haven't probably had it since that time. So I was like, I remember it being sweet. So I was like, okay. And when I went and looked, I said, oh, it's a rosé. So I'm going to get a rosé, which I was able to find. And I got this beautiful bottle. I don't know if you guys can see that, Apothic Rosé. It's designed by a tattoo artist or something. So It was really cool. And it's rosé with dark secrets. So that's why I picked it. I had no idea what it was going to taste like. If you guys want to taste a sip, I think it's kind of sweet, actually. I didn't think it would be.
Sweet is good.
Mm-hmm. That's what a White Zinfandel is. Yes. So it's a little sweet.
It's very nice. It's very nice. I see that you dressed to match the wine today, Christy.
Oh, sort of. It's kind of a little bit dark for a rosé.
when you held up the bottle, it was almost identical.
Oh, okay.
And it matches Sheila's cover of her book.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, we're well coordinated today. And my lips match. So there you go.
All right. All the way around.
That sounds good.
Okay, so let's get started with the questions.
I know, I'm so excited.
All right. So we loved the Egyptian setting that you have in this book and how much it gave the readers a real feel for the place. Mm-hmm. And so it leads us to wonder if, in addition to all these other things, you also have been traveling to Egypt and done some research to get this intimate knowledge.
Actually, no.
No.
I have never been to Egypt, but I've talked to a lot of people who have. And the background was 2 years ago. My younger son, I have no grandchildren. I have 2 sons right now. My daughter was killed in 2000 by her boyfriend.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, that's another whole story.
That's a real life.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
But my younger son, who's a rock star in Germany, was having a baby. He got married and was having a baby. And so, of course, I had to go over there to meet my new granddaughter. And so I went in September of 2019. And since I'm going to Germany, I have to go home to England and see people there. And it just so happened that I had met online a few months earlier several cousins that I'd never known through Ancestry. And so we arranged to get together on the Isle of Wight, and then some other cousins that I'd met through Ancestry on my other side. We'd always, we'd always wanted to go to Gibraltar where our great-great-grandmother was from. So I went there and then went back to London. And I thought, I've got to write off this trip.
Yeah.
It's got to be in the book.
This has got to be research for something.
Yeah, but I've always wanted to write about Egypt, and I've just always had an affinity with ancient Egypt. So that's how.
Well, you'll definitely have to go sometime now, right?
I'm kind of old for that now. I don't want to travel.
You're not alone though, because I think that's one of those common. I think a lot of people are very interested in Egypt, and we should probably tell everybody kind of the plot here, that how it takes place in Egypt. So Claudia Rose has to go over to Egypt to help her niece, who gets herself in a little bit of trouble. And but it's so great because there's so many scenes that take place at the real monuments. And when I was reading it, I thought, wow, she's walked in those doors. I thought you had been there.
In another life. I've been told by psychics who didn't know about that affinity that I was a scribe in ancient Egypt. And a scribe, it makes perfect sense because I deal with handwriting.
Wow.
Oh, wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am very curious about how you got into the field of handwriting and why you decided to make Claudia Rose your protagonist in this great series also in that same field.
Well, they say write what you know. When I was 17 in high school, my then boyfriend's mother had read a book about handwriting analysis and how handwriting could reveal personality. And she analyzed mine. And I was just blown away by the things that she wrote. It's like, oh my God, somebody really knows me, 17-year-old girl. And she said I was emotionally stormy, which of course you could probably say about any 17-year-old girl. It was true. And
that is a great phrase, by the way, emotionally stormy. I love that.
I think I'm going to use that with my daughter when she's having a day. I'll be like, you seem very emotionally stormy today.
Stormy weather. Yeah. So I started reading books, and it was for about 10 years. I just read on my own. And then I found that I could take courses, and I did, and became certified. And then eventually went into document examination, which is a different but related area. Mm-hmm. So that's how it all started.
And so when you say document identification, or is that what you said, document identification?
Or authentication.
Authentication. Okay. So did John Hancock really sign the Declaration of Independence or something, right?
That kind of thing.
So you have to go to trials and stuff, probably.
I hate it. Hate. That's the worst part of my job.
Really?
Yes. So sometimes I have to testify, but in the last 37 years, since 1985, I've testified about 70 times.
Wow.
So that's not a lot considering how many hundreds of cases I've done.
Right.
But it's still very stressful stressful mainly, well, for a lot of reasons, but mainly because it's the opposing document examiner. No, it's the opposing attorney's job to make me look stupid.
Right.
My job not to help.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's stressful. Yeah.
Really stressful. I testified last month, and well, I actually had 2 trials in 1 week, and there's a lot going on about that. And the day after the second one, I was so stressed, I broke out in a rash.
Oh, really? I don't blame you. I don't know.
Sheila, are you testifying? When you testify, is it more often criminal trials or civil trials?
It's mostly civil, but I do have quite a few criminal trials too. And I had one of each that week.
Wow.
One was a young man who's been sitting in jail for almost 2 years, waiting for trial. And that actually wasn't even a trial. It was just a hearing. And he's just going to be stuck there. And his attorney explained to him that because of COVID, the courts are even more stacked up than normal. So he's going to be sitting there for quite a while.
That's tough. That is tough.
Yeah.
But has it made it a little easier doing it? Are you doing it Zoom, or you have to do it in person still?
I've done a couple of them in Zoom, but this one I was required to drive 150 miles to the armpit of Riverside County. What I learned from that was don't eat pot roast at Denny's.
Oh, that's good to know.
At
Tip
least
of the
not that
day,
Denny's.
everyone.
At
So,
least not that Denny's, right? We're not
Right,
gonna.
I'm
No,
sure.
Denny's are fine, I'm sure.
So,
Have breakfast at Denny's.
so at what point during your career did you think I'm going to get into fiction writing?
I think it was the other way around.
Okay.
I was always wanted to write a mystery, and I did some writing early on, but yeah, it was by the time I was getting on for 50, I said, I've got to got to do something, got to start writing. And so I came up with a story, write what you know. And somebody that I knew had in the field, it was the kind of person that you love to hate. She, when she's there, she's charming. You can't help but like her, but you turn your back and there's a knife in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so
I've seen people like that before.
yeah, well, there was I heard some stuff about her life, and she was she died, and the police found all kinds of weird things in her house. They said it was a suicide. Nobody who knew her believed that. She was 37.
Wow.
But one thing they found was evidence that she was an international madam. So,
Oh, wow.
yes, she flew all over the world. Her father was on the board of directors of an airline, so she could fly anywhere. And she was a graphologist, a handwriting analyst, and she'd go all these places. And she'd say she was a graphological ambassador to the world, but really she was going places and having these kinky sex parties and things. So
Wow.
I decided I
Wow
needed
is
to
right.
start in a story.
If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see that both Christine and Maya's mouth was just hanging open.
Yeah, it was an interesting story, and I mean there was a whole lot to it, and I used a lot of the elements of her story in my first book, Poison Pen.
Oh, that's a good inspiration, I tell you,
That
for a
is.
mystery. And wow.
And it's a sad
is.
story, but
Yeah.
It's terrible, but really fascinating also.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
when did you first write that Poison Pen? What year was that?
I started writing it in 1997, and I wrote some of it, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I put it away. And then in 2000, as I said, my daughter was killed. And so, after that, I really needed something to distract me, obvious reasons. And so I pulled it out again. I started working on it, and I found out that somebody that I knew and who was a psychic, I didn't realize had also published a whole bunch of books through Random House, of romance and mysteries. And so I started working with him, and he was helping me. And he still does, all these years later.
So he's like your critique partner.
He's my first critique partner, yes. And he's not afraid to say, this is crap.
Okay, so having a critique partner who also is a psychic, that seems to be like a pretty good combination, I'm thinking.
He's great, yeah.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
And so all these years later now, this is number what in the series?
8 in that series.
8.
Yeah, I don't write fast. Well, it did. The thing is, I wrote it, and in 2000, the first 20 pages won 3rd place in a big competition, Southwest Writers. There were 97 entries in the mystery thriller category, and I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I got to go to Albuquerque to win it, and had dinner with a couple of big time editors at there was Sarah Ann Freed at Mysterious Press and Tom Colgan at Berkeley Prime Crime, and they both liked it. And Sarah Ann had written the character. She said, I love the characters, they're slightly over the top in a Jackie Collins sort of way. And I thought that was not what I was going for, but I'll take it. And so she said, send me the rest of the book. And I did. And a few months later, I wrote to her and I said, did you get the book? And she said, I didn't like the characters.
Oh, yeah. That's the rejection of the field, isn't it? I mean,
yes, yeah. So it took another 7 years before it actually got published.
Wow.
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 Well, here you are now, though.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. I think it's time for our.
I do too. So this is our mid section where we ask our guests the question in a bottle, and so it's a question that you might get to at the end of a bottle.
Yeah. Well, this is a pretty good one. It says, "What do you do to get rid of stress?"
Oh,
It
Well,
could be interesting or not. I don't know.
not particularly. Last week I hurt my back, and I think part of that was due to stress. And so I've done a lot of lying on the couch, binge watching many episodes of the Great British Baking Show.
Oh,
I have never watched that.
I never had. And a couple of weeks ago, my sister was here and she's a chef and she'd never seen it. So we watched an episode. And then when I needed to lie down and be still and de-stress, that's what I did.
That was it.
yeah, that I think that has helped a lot of people during the pandemic, actually, because that's when you started hearing about it, that people are just like glued to that. I haven't watched it myself either.
I don't
but-
watch much TV.
Yeah, I watch them like, Law and Order and things like that.
I watch
I don't-
Grey's Anatomy. That's the only
Yeah,
thing
yeah, I like
watch.
Grey's Anatomy. There you go.
You guys
So-
both like the gore.
Well, Grey's Anatomy, that has a lot of other stuff in it too.
Yeah, it
so.
Good stories. In fact,
McDreamy things, and stuff.
oh yes. Well, some years ago, a few years, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, I was hired to work at a TED conference, TED Talks, and to do handwriting analysis along with a colleague of mine, a friend. And between us, we did, oh my God, over 700 analyses.
Wow.
And one of the people who sat down at my table for an analysis was Shonda Rhimes.
Oh, really?
Yes. And she did not appreciate the fact that I went all fangirl.
Oh, that's funny.
I had to calm down really fast.
She
Yeah.
is very impressive.
Yeah. How was her handwriting?
It was great, as I recall. She liked what I said about it, whatever it was.
Yeah, it was like, you're a go-getter and multitasker. And
Yeah,
I
right.
remember telling her that her family was the most important thing to her,
Oh,
and she agreed with that.
that's a huge
good.
compliment.
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so
Sure
Sheila,
thing.
I'm so curious. I was reading on your website, which is beautiful because it's got great pictures for the dead letters. But I was reading that you took back your publishing rights this last year,
I did.
and you started your own imprint, and I'm Right Choice Imprint, which is so great. Can you tell us about that process?
Yeah. Well,
With a big exhale, it sounds tiring.
yeah. Well, I looked at my sales last year and I loved my publisher. I really did. And they're friends and they're local. We have lunch. But I thought, they're not able to currently do as much for me as I need done. And last week I turned 72. And so I don't have as much time anymore to be, to get my books better known. And so I think I'd like to do it myself. And so I jumped off a cliff.
Wow.
Wow.
I was very lucky to have met a young woman who has been working with her husband, who is also a mystery author, and she'd been really successful getting him advertising and so on. And she did all the heavy lifting, getting and showed me and taught me. Oh, and it's really, I rewrote all of my 10 titles, re-edited them, I should say, in 3 months. So
Wow.
it's really exhausting, but yeah, we got new covers, and the new imprint, Right Choice Ink, is just for my books. So don't anybody write to me and say, will you publish my books? Because
Okay.
She's not looking for
You're
that
like, I don't
email.
want that headache.
it can be quite a headache. But once you get, the big thing about writing is hard. Selling your books to a publisher is harder. But the hardest thing of all is marketing and getting them known.
Right.
And it's kind of a science, I've found.
Yeah.
There's a lot of competition. I mean, there's a lot of the great thing about the self-publishing. It makes a lot of avenues available, but there's a lot of competition to get people's attention.
Yeah.
Indeed, there is. And I have just hired a professional marketing company to tell me what needs to be done to get, to meet my goals.
Right. Well, hopefully we help a little. You're on our podcast and we appreciate that. So maybe it'll do something for you too. So my question is, you've already said, you said you write slow, but I got to tell you, you have 6 nonfiction books and now,
10.
I don't know, 10 fiction.
Mhm.
And so I'm thinking you must be somewhat dedicated. So
I just have no life.
what kind of, what did you say?
That I have no life.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's typical of writers, I think. No. But what is your advice to other writers that could help them, get the job done?
The process?
Yeah, like what do you have a routine or something that really works? And
super non-disciplined, I'm afraid. And because I make a living as a handwriting analyst, so that always comes first. But that's not a constant thing. And at this stage of my life, I like to have a little more freedom. But with writing, oh man, what I do, I get up in the morning and do email for about an hour and all that stuff, and I do the crossword and everything I can do to put off what I really do. 2:00 in the afternoon is when I actually start working, and by then, I got to be doing something else. So it's really hit or miss. But by about 10:00 at night, I think, I've got to get something done, and so I usually write pretty late.
Wow. You're a night owl.
Yeah. So it works out that way. So, but everybody really has their own process.
Right. I mean, do you feel like you have to write every day something, or do you just kind of like go in spurts?
Well, I'm always writing because I have hundreds of emails a day.
Right.
So I'm always writing something.
Right.
And usually, many friends are sending me their books to look at, and I just critiqued a book of somebody that, asked me to. And there's always something like that. But like right now, I need to start working on my next book in the Beyond the Veil series. And I'm thinking about it, but I'm an outliner. Some people, we call them pantsers or plotters, and I'm a plotter. I've tried pantsing it before on my 3rd book, Dead Right. Yeah, I think that was it. And I wrote about 5 chapters, and then months went by, and I thought, that's when I was with Penguin, and I had a deadline, and I'd better write an outline, and I did. And what happened was, the thing that I thought was going to be the big reveal at the end of the book needed to come right in the middle.
Interesting.
So I had to, rethink all of that. And having an outline helped me, but not everybody can work that way.
Yeah, Kathy's a big outliner. She loves
I like organization. Yeah, well, it's not that attractive actually. When you look behind me, I'm kind of like a.
Well, once I write my outline, I probably will never look at it again. It's just to get everything in my head.
Oh, interesting.
Or I might go back at the end and see, did I cover everything that I wanted to cover? I write it on cards. I'll put, I'll write down a bunch of ideas for scenes, and then each scene, then I'll fill it out with a paragraph and then start writing. And I found that writing that part by hand rather than on the computer, it's a much more creative process. And there's, as a handwriting analyst, I know that there are brain reasons why that's true, but it's a really good thing to do. Write with your hand. That's
interesting.
It is really interesting.
And I do, like when I do notes and things, I do it. I'm not as easy at doing it on the computer. I write them down, even though I'm writing the book on the computer or whatever.
Well,
interesting.
So says the handwriting expert. Everyone, just saying, tip on
creativity
tip of the day. Okay, so Sheila, before we go, we always have one final question that Christie's going to ask you.
Yes. Which of your characters would you like to share a meal with, and what would it be?
Oh God, Joel.
Joel. It's
Joel.
clear she knew.
Claudia's boyfriend, who in my mind is Gerard Butler.
Oh, yeah. There you
Okay,
go.
then I would like to also have dinner with
we
him.
can all do that, right? No, we
Yeah.
won't crash your party. We won't crash your party.
As to what, though, I don't know. I think, he likes big manly steaks and stuff like that. So I
We
Sounds
go to
great.
an old dark steak place where you guys can
Yes.
romantically look at each other while you're
or back at it used to be Shanghai Reds in the marina where Claudia and Joel go.
Oh,
An
there you
actual
go.
place, but now they've changed the name to Whiskey Reds and changed it all around.
Ugh, don't they know that you have some you need consistency for your books?
I know. Well, I had to change. In fact, I mentioned the change in dead letters. They went there for me.
Oh, that's
Because
good.
Claudia had gone away for a couple of weeks to help her mother.
Yes.
Came back. That's where he took her.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
Before all the
Well,
bad things
cool.
happened in everybody's families.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to do
Okay.
a book about COVID.
Yeah. Okay, so Sheila, if any of our listeners have questions about you or want to reach out to you, what's the best way to find you?
Well, my email is real easy, sheila@sheilalowe.com. But
Mhm.
let me just say that I sometimes have email delivery problems. So there's an alternate, sheilalowe@roadrunner.com.
Oh.
Or you can always
Do you have it on your website, contact link or something?
Yes. So sheilalowebooks.com for books, and then just sheilalowe.com for handwriting analysis services.
All right.
All right.
Oh, yes, in case they want to hire you for that too.
Yeah,
I
you can
forgot.
find me
I know. Or, want to pick your brain about stuff for if they're writers or something.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I'll tell you. So for any of our listeners who like books about Egypt and Egyptology, Dead Letters is a great read.
Thank
And it
you.
has a very cool cover too.
I know, I love it.
I love that
I love it.
cover.
I love it.
Well, I got to tell you, Sheila, this has been a very nice time, a fun conversation, and I'm so glad you could join us. Thank you so much.
And happy belated birthday.
And
Well,
happy
thank
belated
you for that.
birthday.
Thank you. And thanks so
All
much
right.
for inviting me.
So now I think all we have to do is do a cheers.
Cheers to you, Sheila.
Cheers.
Cheers.